Good morning, everybody. I'm Zach Blanchard, and this is Political Brew. Joining me this morning, our analyst, Republican Richardson, and a new addition, former Democratic State Senator Cathy Breen. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I want to start out in Augusta, where Governor Janet Mills is following through on her promise to introduce gun safety and mental health legislation following the Lewiston shootings. The legislation looks to expand background checks, create a violence prevention program within the Maine CDC, and create crisis centers across the state.
This change will significantly improve community safety. This would make a significant improvement in the functioning of Maine's yellow flag law.
Now, Ray, some say these laws go too far, others say they don't go far enough. Where do you fall?
Well, I guess I'm a little confused because obviously they were inspired by this terrible tragedy in Lewiston. As we said last time I was here, the governor has created a commission, which I respect her for doing that, and I respect the people on the commission to seek truth. We don't have all the answers. We do know, since I last saw you, that Mr. Card bought his gun legally through a gun shop. So I'm not sure why we're extending background checks to private gun sales and how that would have prevented the tragedy in Lewiston. So what I would love to see the governor do, and you did that interview with her before Christmas, which she was very cautious on all this. I thought she was going to wait for the commission and then propose solutions, and I'm disappointed that she hasn't done that.
Cathy?
You know, I think that during the second part of this legislative session, there is such impetus to do something in the wake of the Lewiston tragedy that I agree that what comes out of the commission will be important, but that doesn't mean we have to wait for the commission. We can do both.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see some things done. There's no doubt. I agree with Jared Golden. He came out and said, I don't think we need to be imposing more gun laws on law-abiding citizens. I am glad the governor is taking the lead because I think this has been a problem throughout the country. We're not doing enough in the area of the mental health crisis that is engulfing our nation. Sane people don't go out and murder 18 people. They just don't do it. And we are ignoring, in my mind, this very terrible thing that is leading to homeless encampments that we've seen in Portland, leading to drug addiction as people try to quiet the voices in their heads. I really would love to see Governor Mills be the champion of mental health resources for the state of Maine and strategically position clinics around the state, not just down here, but all over the state. And we have the money because we've been spending a lot of it. And if she did that, that would be a good legacy for her.
So I want to follow up on that and make sure everybody understands that people with mental illness are way more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators of violence. We know that through research. And there are people struggling with severe mental illness every day, all over the planet, all the time. There's only one country that has ubiquitous availability of deadly firearms, and that's the United States.
Right, Senator Angus King officially has a Republican challenger.
I stand here today before you all and promise I will lock arms with Senator Susan Collins and keep the Washington bureaucrats off our lobster boats and out of our fishing waters. You have my word on that.
Demi Kazunis formally announced she is running against King at a rally in Portland this week. Kazunis is a veteran dentist and served as the chair of the Maine GOP from 2017 to 2023. Ray, full transparency here. I know you're involved in Demi's campaign, but is this race a long shot against King?
Well, sure, of course. He's very popular, but Demi's a remarkable person. You read off some of her attributes and accomplishments. Dee Dee and I, my wife Dee Dee and I, we love this woman. She's my big sister. She's our family. Yeah, it's a long shot race, but I know Demi and she's capable of great things. And the American people speak every now and then very loudly. Will this be the time? I don't know. But if it is, she'll be ready.
Cathy?
Well, I think Demi has a record of pretty extreme positions when she was the chair of the Maine GOP, and I don't think that those are particularly popular. Obviously, Senator King is like Teflon; he's very, very popular. So I no doubt it will be an uphill race, but I hope for her that she takes advantage of the experience and that learning and visiting every corner of the state of Maine and talking with people will be a great experience.
In some national headlines, a major hospital in Alabama is pausing all in vitro fertilization procedures after a controversial Supreme Court decision in the state last week. The University of Alabama Birmingham Hospital says it fears patients and doctors could face criminal charges. The Alabama Supreme Court ruled frozen embryos created during fertility treatments can be considered children under state law, and the issue has found its way into the presidential race.
Embryos to me are babies. So
Even those created through IVF.
I mean, I had artificial insemination. That's how I had my son. But when you talk about an embryo, you are talking about, to me, that's a life.
Now, Cathy, is this going to have significance in the presidential race?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a further step down the road of trying to create personhood before people are actually born. And I also was in infertility treatment many, many years ago. There are already very important and strong safeguards around how embryos are handled in medical settings. There's a lot of care and respect taken for where those embryos land. And I think thinking of an embryo as a full-fledged human being is so frightening to me, and I think it's going to, for all the millions of families around the United States who need assistive technology to build their families, this is going to send a chill to everybody. I mean, it's hard enough that you have to have the medical world involved in this very, very intimate step in your life, but then to have the courts and potentially law enforcement looking down your neck, I mean, that is just terrifying to me.
And Ray, I know you're staunchly pro-life, but will this and the issue of abortion and reproductive rights hurt Republicans this year?
I don't think so. I mean, this is the way it's supposed to work. This is a state-by-state decision. We've seen in Maine last year, Governor Mills signed the most expansive, least restrictive abortion law, abortion up till birth, if a doctor will sign off on it. Not only in this country, but I did the homework in the entire world for countries that have abortion laws. Now in Alabama, they've declared, the Supreme Court has, that embryos are children. I think this is the tension that's supposed to go on in this country, which is why I was always against Roe v. Wade. I felt it should be at the state level. If that's a value Alabama holds, I celebrate it because I'm pro-life. I am pro-life without exception. And I am also pro-life in believing that we help the mother post-birth. We help her with spiritual care, financial care, medical care, and there are many organizations outside of the government willing to do it if the government would allow it.
There's absolutely no way I would ever cede control over what goes on in my uterus, my daughter's uterus, to any sort of outside control. And I applaud the legislature and Governor Mills for recognizing that when there are fetal anomalies and there are families struggling with what to do with that very, very challenging pregnancy, that decision rests between them, their God, their clergy, their medical professionals, and their own conscience. And that's it.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll have much more on the South Carolina primary next hour. The Weekend Morning Report is back right after this. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zach Blanchard, and this is Political Brew. Joining me this morning, our analyst, Republican Ray Richardson, and a new addition, former Democratic State Senator Cathy Breen. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start with the big news in the presidential race. As expected, Nikki Haley was defeated by former President Donald Trump in her home state of South Carolina. Even still, Haley is vowing to continue her campaign despite that she lost in Iowa and New Hampshire as well. Cathy, what's the path forward here and why stay in?
Well, I think Ambassador Haley has a mission to provide an alternative to the Trump ticket. There are still some Republicans out there that are not satisfied with Donald Trump, and she's their flag bearer at this point. And I give her a lot of credit for continuing to fight for the rest of the party, and I wish her well.
Right, but how long can she, I mean, ultimately it comes down to the cash, right?
Yeah, they say she has money to go through Super Tuesday. You know, her appeal in South Carolina was to Democrats and unenrolled to come in and vote in that primary. That seems like an odd strategy for a Republican. I don't know why she's staying in. If she exits after, after the South Carolina primary or after Super Tuesday, it'll be the earliest exit of the last person standing other than the nominee. Bernie Sanders went to April, I think, in 2020 or 2016, whichever it was. I don't know what she's doing because I think she's hurting her viability for 4 years from now. No matter what, there's going to be an open primary for Republicans in 2028. Trump wins, Trump doesn't win. She's hurting herself with a lot of Republicans because of her appeal to Democrats. So in the primary, I don't know what her strategy is. People are propping her up for the reasons Cathy said. They want to have that alternative, but it doesn't appear that opportunity is going to materialize.
And there are a lot of polls that show a lot of voters are looking for that alternative.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, look, let's be honest. I am supporting Donald Trump, but there's a lot of people in this country that wish Joe Biden and Donald Trump were not on the ballot.
All right. We'll add this next thing to things I didn't think we would be talking about. Russian President Vladimir Putin is responding to President Joe Biden, calling him a crazy SOB at a fundraising event this week. I'll let you fill in the blanks there. It was in response to the Kremlin criticizing Biden for trying to, for his poor attempt rather, to sound like a Hollywood cowboy. Now, after all of this, Putin praised Biden, saying it shows why he prefers him over Donald Trump. Ray, we're walking a pretty fine line here.
Yeah. I've said this a lot lately, that I think our foreign policy in this country has been rudderless since the days of Ronald Reagan, where it was very clear he wanted to bring down communism. I think we're just all over the place right now. Matt Jacobson is a good friend of mine. He went to the United States Naval Academy and served in the United States Air Force, and we had about a 45-minute discussion on about Ukraine and Russia. And Matt and I seem to both agree that what the United States ought to be doing is helping bring this war to a conclusion. People are dying. Ukrainians aren't going to give up. I have a lot of friends in Ukraine, some of which who serve in Zelensky's cabinet and have been on my show. They're not going to give up. They will fight to the death to remain Ukrainians.
So Ray, why do you, I agree with you, and I think what President Biden has done in the international community, isolating Russia because of Ukraine, is really unprecedented and incredibly impressive. So why are House Republicans in the Congress holding up funding for Ukraine? We need to get this over with and move on.
I mean, too many people are dying, too many innocent people.
Right.
I think it's an accountability issue. We've given so far in resources and money $110 billion to Ukraine. Oddly enough, some of the money went to prop up Ukrainian government pensions. I think if the average citizen in this country knew that that was happening, they wouldn't be too happy about it. I think it's an accountability issue, but at this point, Russians and Ukrainians, this is very much like the Great American Civil War. Brother is fighting brother. Ukrainians and Russians come from the same DNA. And I would love to see somebody with enough stature, whomever it is in the world, to go in and get these two guys to sit down and figure it out. Ukraine wants to remain sovereign, and Russia's not a good place right now.
I think we need to fund it, and we need to win. And we need to send the signal that Vladimir Putin, when he goes and attacks countries around the world, is going to lose.
But how do you win, though? That's the problem, because he wants to take over all the Soviet countries and put them under.
We need to invest, because investing in Ukraine is a lot cheaper than what's going to happen if we lose.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Another presidential candidate has filed a lawsuit against Maine's Secretary of State. Robert Kennedy Jr., who is running for president as an independent, is suing Secretary Shenna Bellows, claiming she's preventing his campaign from collecting signatures inside polling places on primary day to qualify for the November ballot. Bellows essentially says state law says Kennedy can collect signatures in June's election when the office he seeks isn't on the ballot. Is that a fair justification, Cathy?
Yeah, I mean, you can't collect signatures to run for president in the same building that there's a presidential primary happening at the same time. So the law is abundantly clear. You know, Kennedy's campaign is doing what he has to do to try to get on the ballot. You know, of course he's going to try, but I think Secretary Bellows, followed the law. It's pretty black and white.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And he's got till June, so it's not like this is his last chance. He can collect signatures in the legislative primary we have coming up, Senate and House, both House seats. So I agree. I agree with Shenna's decision on this. Absolutely.
All right. Governor Janet Mills is getting some heat this week after announcing her administration's support to build an offshore wind port on Sears Island in Searsport. The town manager supports it, but lawmakers are split. Governor Mills says it makes the most sense for Maine's climate goals.
Again, I did not arrive at this decision easily, but in weighing the costs and benefits of both Mack Point and the site at Sears Island, I believe the state-owned parcel on Sears Island is the best, the least expensive, and least environmentally harmful option that will, at the same time, unlock significant economic and clean energy opportunities for the people of Maine.
Now, Ray, not surprising here, Republicans are already voicing opposition to this and, of course, wind power in general, as they have been for years. Are you surprised the governor came out so strong on this?
Yeah, I am. I know she's for wind power, and frankly, I believe to the detriment of the fishing industry. Me personally, I wasn't born here. I'm not a Mainer by birth. I'm a Mainer by choice. My wife and I moved here 39 years ago. We love this state. We love its people. We love what Maine has always stood for. Part of it is that beautiful coastline, why we would want to litter it with those god-awful windmills when they're inefficient. And we know this because there have been many private sector businesses that have pulled out of the wind industry because you can't make a profit unless it's subsidized by the government. There are many other ways to have clean, green energy in this state. Hydro is a great one. And for some reason, we're not embracing it, although we have all these rivers here that we could be generating clean, green, sustainable electricity. Governor Mills has 3 more years in office, and I think it is a tragedy for the people of Maine that she's going to litter our coastline with these dadgum windmills.
Cathy.
Well, I have a very different perspective than Ray does on this. You know, the administration has invested a lot in research on offshore wind. There's been an enormous amount of time spent through the university system and other avenues trying to figure out where is the best site and how to make it effective and environmentally least impactful. And we just saw what's happening to our lovely Maine coast with these enormous storms and floods that are happening because of climate change. So this is consistent with Governor Mills' climate plan, which I completely applaud. I had the honor of serving on the Climate Council during my time in the Senate. She's a national leader, and Maine is leading the country in renewable energy. Hydropower, as you know, as if dams look a whole lot, damming up our rivers look any better than, you know, windmills. And let's look at electric infrastructure. It's not pretty. We're just used to it because we grew up with it. So, you know, we need to adjust. We need to pivot. We need to change the way we make energy. And this is one step, and I applaud it.
We'll see how it plays out. Let's wrap things up with winners, losers. Ray, we'll start with you.
Well, if she gets her way on the windmills, Maine is the loser. There's just no getting around it. I know Janet Mills. I've known her since 1998. I like her. I know she loves Maine. Why she would do this to the people of Maine, I cannot fathom.
Winner?
Spring will be here in 30 days.
All right, Cathy, winners, losers.
My winners is the state of Maine for the offshore wind. I think that's a game changer, and we need to keep going in that direction. And losers, I would say, you know, anybody who believes that an embryo is a full human being, that I think anybody right now who's trying to build a family through assistive technology, all of those folks are losers.
All right. Cathy, Ray, thanks so much. Don't forget Meet the Press with Kristen Welker coming up at 9. The Morning Report is back right after this.